Okay, so this is part 3 of the print page exercise, and we're going to start with the comment that your, not voice, but your hand printing doesn't have to be great to do this assignment well. So my printing, for example, if you see it when I hand drawings back to you, I have 3 times 40 assignments to mark, so when I write, I do it fast, and then you come back to me, I can't read it. So when we write, when we do our hand printing, unless it is a card or thank you card or love letter, we write too fast. We've become a really fast society, and lots of us are sloppy, including myself. So for your drafting exercises, and from now on, you will be expected to draft the letters. So that's the good news if you are fast and messy. Your hand printing doesn't have to be the meticulous kind in order to do drafted letters and numbers correctly. Like title block, your printing is going to set the mood and tone for your whole work. So if your line work is meticulous, but your dimensions have poor notes, and your notes are messy, then there was no point of wasting all this time on beautiful line work, because your project is going to look really bad. So one of the few things that the employers and consulting offices do require is they want to see your hand printing. I'll give you a scenario. When 80 sets are going out for bids, especially government projects, they have to be open, and they have to go to whoever wants to bid on a project. So imagine that 80 construction firms are bidding on a job, and they want sets of drawings. We still print them. So the set that is construction bidding revision comes out, and let's say there's 80 sets printed. And remember, I told you we're doing project 1 sheet, 2 sheets. Your final project will be 2 sheets. The house project can be 10 sheets, big sheets. The commercial project like Mohawk College can be 80, can be 100 sheets. The last thing that consulting office wants is for you to scribble a lousy note. So before drawings go out for reproduction, very often a simple note needs to be added. So architect stamps them, engineer stamps the drawings, and a simple note needs to be added, like revision 5. The last thing that the employer wants you to do is to do a messy job on those originals. So with electronic drawings, this is becoming less and less important. However, again, people who are in managerial positions, they need it. You want a my job, you want to do things on the board, you still need it. So this is still big part of hand drafting and your professional development. So let's start with letters. You have in your book the closest to hand-printed exercise, the closest letters and numbers that I could find in AutoCAD, and that's called City Blueprint. There is handprint, I believe, style, and City Blueprint style. They're both not very good, actually, for your AutoCAD applications, because, just interesting, in case you don't get it in AutoCAD, both of those styles are created with double lines. So if you were to zoom in on the letter, it has double lines like this. You can imagine how much more memory space this will take in your file. So both of them are not great because of that. And secondly, they tend to be very unclear. So although they look nice, zoomed up and big, and that's what I gave you in your handbook, they're actually not very good AutoCAD styles to pick, because they don't read very clearly. So there are others that you will be choosing for your CAD applications. But there is a page that I printed, and there are a few only letters that I'll show you how to do differently. So if you, I don't remember the number, I think it's 19, 20, I think it is 19, that shows you the example. So what we're going to start with is the grid that I already prepared here. And that's not something you're going to be doing. I don't want you to do the blue marks. The blue marks, the vertical marks, are in your head. They are composition of each letter in about a square. Of course, I is not going to fit in a square. Of course, 1 is not going to fit in a square. So you have to make those adjustments. But except for those, most of the letters should be composed in about a square. And what I do is I compose it in about a square and then leave a little bit space at the end so the letters are not physically joined. That's a very first sign for clarity. We did talk about the importance of horizontal lines, and that was your part 1 and 2, because we need to get letters the same size. We are going to also introduce another thing which will happen about 1/3, not 1/3, a little bit more than halfway up. So I'm going to draw this line, but every year I get students who actually draw these squares and these lines. The blue lines are in your head. The red lines we did last week, and that will be from now on required for all dimensions in your notes. You should be starting with some kind of vertical line and finishing with vertical line, so your notes have a clear start and end when you wrap around. So that's the part of layout when we prepared the sheet. Today it's just about letters. I'm not going to do all of them. There's no point of doing I, for example. It's just a stick. But the stick needs to be vertical. So we're going to use lettering guide, okay? We're going to use lettering guide, and we're going to simply put lettering guide against the T-square and use the vertical part of it to do vertical letters. I would actually suggest, and I don't have on my screen here the other board, so I'll sketch it for just you. And we'll just record the letter, maybe part of it. No, it's not going to show. Okay, I'll do it here. We're going to have fewer spaces for letters. What I suggest you do, the lettering guide actually is a very interesting story. My first co-op job, I was a student like yourself of our program. My first co-op job was in Toronto. And there was a tiny fellow in the corner of the office doing meticulous printing. And my printing was horrible. Horrible. And to this day, without lettering guide, it is actually not that great. And I asked him, Chris, teach me. So he did. He showed me lettering guide. Not for what you're getting the instructions written for, not for the patterns. This came after. I bought that lettering guide so I could place it like this today, under the T-square, and use this vertical side for all the verticals. And what I do, and I'll show you later when I cruise around, maybe we should record the live instruction too, demonstration. I push it against the T-square, but I also use the round part to lift it, so as I'm moving it along, it's not smudging. So rather than moving it along with my hand like this, I hold the T-square and I hold the lettering guide on the round part with my thumb, and I lift it up with my thumb and move it along so it's not smudging the actual text. So maybe we'll do the actual demonstration later on. So that's going to help us vertically. So now we have two organizational items. We have horizontal lines that should make all your letters the same height. Now many of you in that first exercise drew the lines but never used them. So there's no point of having them and then have text become smaller and smaller. That's what they're there for. They're light. There's another reason why we do them. Because potentially some students do that page by tracing, no, actually writing the notes, but using the lines that I gave you. When in a pinch, I gave you this sheet to have it. When the lines are actually part of your drawing, if your letters slightly extend or are slightly lower, our brain is lazy and it's going to read your note correctly along those lines that organize it. So just having these lines, remember last week if you didn't have them, what did I say? Cheat. So when I look at it, I see them. Because your notes are immediately going to look better. Even if you didn't do them, if you add them afterwards, they look better, and you saw it last week. So that organizes us horizontally. Lettering guide that I showed you here is going to allow you to basically use all the vertical lines with this gizmo vertically. You draw them vertically. You can't mess up. So now all of your vertical, let's call them sticks of the letters and numbers, are not going to be going one way or the other. There are students who tend to write on this angle. There are students who tend to write on this angle, and there are students who write their letters straight when you write freehand. So some students learn cursive. Printed letters need to have everything vertically. And that's your great tool to get the confidence that they will be vertical, okay? At home, if you're going to finish this page at home, you could potentially just use this for verticals without even T-square, because it's going to be awfully close. Far better than having these kind of angles for all your eyes and P's, etc. Okay? So then there is actual shapes. So now the third rule is that the letters need to be, I call it bottom heavy. In my instruction in the manual, I said make them bottom heavy. What do we mean? I mean, if we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, when we're going to do 8, it would be ridiculous to go the other way around. It would not be a very pretty 8 if the top is, I made it a little bit too emphasized. But that's what I mean by bottom heavy. If you're going to have a B, so vertical is vertical, my height is right, your, let's call it, top belly needs to be smaller than the bottom. What's going to happen if it's not? If they're not bottom heavy, then it's going to be looking like this, and that's not a very good B. So you see, you don't have to know these things. You just follow very basic rules, and you're going to make beautiful letters just by remembering a few basic rules. So I'm going to go through all of the letters and give you my own suggestions, and I'll finish with one last thing. You might be getting jobs anywhere around the world. You're growing up in North America. You are in Canada, where you were expected to learn some French, right? How many of you are fluent in French? All right, you're French probably.
No.
No? Okay, so we have one student that's fluent in French. I had to learn Russian when I was growing up, and I'm not fluent. But you wouldn't believe how great it is to actually hear, I'm doing some videos, and actually be able to follow instructions and understand a little bit. When you grow up in Europe, in Switzerland, for example, all the kids learn 4 languages. So Europe has such a rich history of, takeovers. But every German person speaks English. Every Dutch person speaks English. Now every Polish person speaks English, or French, or German. Travel for you is very expensive. You don't see the need as much. And because of this, I personally think North American kids are growing up a little bit of ignorant. They kind of assume everybody should speak English, and it's not so. I traveled to China, okay? I want to go to Vietnam big time. I've traveled to China, and I was blown away. It is a powerhouse. If you want to study foreign language, learn Mandarin now. But because China was closed for such a long time, lots of young people are learning other languages now, but there is still a huge group of people that doesn't know English, for example. The reason why I'm bringing, Chinese, Korean, I think Vietnamese too, alphabet is pictures to me. There's no way I could ever comprehend it and understand it. Well, imagine that you are a Chinese person who doesn't know any English, and you're going to work on a project together over internet, or you got a new job and your project is in China, and you want to say, let's say 21st century, but you're messy, and you're not following my instructions, and you're doing something like this. 21st, you're doing like this. And the person, your colleague in China, is looking at is it 20, is it double X's, is it W? So it could potentially be, if you're sloppy with your W, it could be W. Is it W or is it 2 X's? Do you see what I'm saying? Clarity. Your personal style will develop. Everybody, the beauty of handwriting and hand printing is that eventually your style will develop. And if you've seen beautiful drawings, and I should show you some examples, remind me, I'll bring them. My own personal handwriting has personal style. But you can't start with it. You can't start some extensions and some slants and some, like for example, B. I will tend to do B like this and C like this and D like this and E like this. And you can do this later. Develop clarity first. Be clear first and foremost, so you are useful to people that you work with. Then naturally your personal style will kick in as you're doing it, okay? So enough said, we'll read all these scribbles so you have the reminder of what we're after. So clarity will come with horizontal, vertical. Now we're talking letters. Letters will be bottom heavy. So starting with A, there is no 8 here. We got to go freehand. One thing that we don't want to do is use rulers for lines on an angle. Ruler for horizontal, ruler for vertical, but everything else we're going freehand because the next thing is time. Nobody's going to be paying you to make A with ruler like so. So it's got to be freehand. But if it needs to be clear, then you'll start in the middle and you do your best to draw 2 lines that are about a square. And then remember, bottom heavy, you're not going to place A here or here. You're going to place the horizontal line where that bottom heavy part starts, which is just a little bit higher than halfway through. C, I suggest that you start somewhat here. Suggest to start somewhat here and make it bottom heavy by finishing it at the end. So I tend to do this, and I don't think that the sample that you have from CAD does this, so that's slightly different. You see, in my slanted way, the D is kind of slanted, but for clarity, you want to have your vertical line, and then basically fill out the square. What you don't want to do is a droopy thing that students often do. That doesn't look very good. So mine didn't turn out very good either, but the letters themselves may not look very good here, but as you put them in words, they do start shape up quite nicely. The E is your vertical, so everywhere I'll put those little arrows where I would use the lettering guide, okay? Only for the verticals. The E cannot be, this line should not be longer than the bottom line. So again, you try to make it bottom heavy. So just don't make the letter E like this. See what we're getting at. F, there's no point because it's half of E. G, I start again. I don't start on this line. I start somewhere on the top and I go around with this beautiful curve that as I can manage. And I come down and I actually do G like this. I believe in the book it's slightly different. But I'm showing you how I do it. And then I'm not going to force you to do it my way. I would use lettering guide here, believe me or not. H is just straight lines, but again, you don't want to make it too wide. I'm using the squares to also provide spaces between letters, but the horizontal line is higher up. I am not going to worry about J differs slightly. My J differs slightly from what you have in the book. In the book, you have kind of like a regular hook. I don't like it. I like to do my J's like this, like a real hook. It doesn't look very good here, but it really looks good in the text. So you have the 2 options. Now K is going to be difficult because you've got to, but it's easier if you remember that halfway point, a little bit higher than halfway, and top smaller than bottom. Stretch it so it fills out almost a square. So your K is going to be ugly if it's narrow, if it is top heavy. L is simple. M. We need to talk about M and W. M and W are kind of opposite. And I am not going to disallow you doing M like this. But I don't like it because we want that square consistency. So I myself make 2 vertical lines first with my lettering guide and then join them like so with 2 lines freehand. So I use a lettering guide to do that. And I do again vertical line, and join them. O is simple, but fill it out so it's as nice of a circle as you can make in a space. P will be half of, nice straight line, half of B, except what did I do wrong here? I didn't have my little guide, so we're going to scratch that one. Let's do that P again with that imaginary line. P needs to be half of the B. So imagine the B is at the bottom, and we just take the heavier part out. The same with R. R will be your combination of K and B. Sometimes students make R like this, and sometimes you make R thin. So those are the R's that we don't want. So part of the B, smaller, nice, curvy top part, and then higher than halfway through and extend it out. It doesn't look all that great here, but it does look good in printed Word. Oh, there's another R that students do. Another R that students do is like this. That's also not very good. I can't reach up top there. Now, we're getting to S, ladies and gentlemen. I would suggest you do S differently than we have in the book. Okay? Much differently. I'll show you what my theory is about S. Let's go back to that 8. I would make the top part a little bit bigger. My idea about S is similar to this. See it? Your 8 is not going to be very good, so 8 that we're not going to do is 8 that you usually print like this, because 8 should be about 2 ellipses. Nice snowman, right? Nice snowman. And 2 eyes. A carrot, okay? That's the shape. We like the snowman shape. It's warm, it's fuzzy, okay? There's certain shapes in those letters that are comfortable to us, and those are the ones that you want to strive for. So my S starts where all of my C's and G's start here, but then it creates a curve, a beautiful curve that drops down here. You see that drop here? If you look at the book, the AutoCAD S droops in my, this is S that we don't want. Another one that students give me is that one. You also, and the book I believe has a good start, but then it kind of is, I think it's, I call it rising up here, and what I'm trying to push you towards is the curves that slopes down. There are curves that we love. Guitar, grand piano, woman, body. Those are the curves that we love. They're beautiful, comfortable curves, and we want them in our letters as well. So your printing is good. All right, so we've got S. T is simple. Z is horizontal line freehand, horizontal line freehand and connected, so all freehand. We use this, vertical guard. W, I might not be going in a good order here. W, I do opposite to M. So I do them like this, vertical and 2 freehand lines, because I have an aid and confidence builder of my lettering guide, and then 2 freehand lines. And that will always be clear, because my X will definitely be for my colleagues in China, and X and W will be W and M will be M. Clear, clear first and foremost. What did I forget, ladies and gentlemen? Q is, Q is a circle with a slash. Y is 2 freehand lines and vertical with the guide. And you want to avoid, you see, like I have to go big. The bigger the letters, the more difficult. And I did print pages for you. So maybe before you start the print page, you can try at least few letters in the book, few for each, and try to apply some of these things. We'll take the picture and I'll post it. They're not the best I've ever made, but they're not bad. Another one? One, the numbers, yes. So now numbers. We've got 8, okay? Numbers are very entertaining. 1, I would, to differentiate between I and 1, I do 1 like this. When you do dimensions only, you can make just a stick. But I differentiate between the I and 1 by giving it this. 2, ladies and gentlemen, is a nightmare for you. 2 is the most difficult number, yes. Okay, because it involves the beautiful curve again. 2 starts, I started about here, and I try to have, again, part of the snowman, which will be somewhat like this. So the upper part of the snowman, but here is the beautiful curve. So let's talk about curves. The guitar. The guitar has this curve, but they join at the bottom horizontally and at the top horizontally, right? So the most beautiful curves and the curves that we like, that make sense to us, They're organized because they hit the horizontal line at 90. And when you start doing the curves in your architectural designs, that's one thing that you want to do, or landscaping paths. You will want to join that landscape path to a walkway on 90. We don't want to have these crazy angles. So what 2 are you going to give me? You're going to give me this. You're going to give me this. You're going to give me everything. Oh, the worst will be the one that actually droops. And I'm not kidding you. All of the do nots, I do get every year. So yeah, if I come up with another word. So about halfway through, I start curving it down. So you want to curve it down and hit the horizontal line on 90-degree angle for beautiful curve. There are 2 ways of doing 3. Your text shows, again, part of your snowman. You can do the 2 parts of the ellipse, but don't start it very low. Start it again kind of opposite to what I suggested for C and G. But I like 3 that has horizontal line, this line, and then beautiful curve. That's how I do it. 4, there's 2 options again. I don't remember. The book has the one that I like, but some of you will be insisting on 4 like this, and it's okay, but I don't like it. I suggest that you try, if that's your handprinting 4, try for drafting letters 4 that is like this. And trust me, it looks not so great here, but when you start doing your dimensions, that kind of 4 looks awesome. And we're already at 8, and we have 5. I am sure that at least once in your lifetime you drew heart for somebody, have you? That's another of those beautiful curves that we love. Oh yeah, okay. Try 5, not like it is in the book, but horizontal line, vertical line, and then half of the heart. Do you see half of the heart? Lovely 5. We'll skip the 8. But we're going to do 2 drafted ellipses. 6, I start here. And I go, let's do 9, because it's not upside down now. If I turned my 9, so look at this 6. You see the gravity here? The bottom ellipse is nice and curvy, and the start is where I started C and G, so they're lighter up top. 9 is not the same. Because if I start 9 here and finish here, it will be falling. Okay? So what we need to do with 9, we have to bring it to center of gravity so it is stable and grounded. And the only way to do it is to start here but finish here. You see the difference? Finish here. See the difference? So we're going to do this mark so you don't forget. 0 is very much like O. Put it in the square and fit it. But 7 is another one of the curves that needs to be stable. So 7 is a horizontal line, and then remember the stability of your numbers. We want a nice curve that hits here at 90 in the center of gravity. What we don't want is 7 that comes to the end like this because it wants to fall. So we need to come to the center of gravity. 7, 8, 9, let's do one more 0. Just avoid this, I'm going fast. I don't want that video to be an hour, but you want to do as nice of a curve. It's difficult, so start with as nice of a circle as you can do freehand, slowly. What we don't want is, these squished ellipses on angles in various directions, and avoid these overlaps. Okay, did I forget anyone that we want to do again? We're cool? Okay. I will have to trim because this thing dies on me.